Welcome back, I'm Kim Bailey and this is Floral Art Online. Today we're going to look at a technique that you can try to replace using floral foam in containers. I first learnt this and saw this technique through John McDonald from Flower Juice, and I will leave a link to his video in the description of this one, because he does his version with flat mesh wire and I'm going to use a chicken mesh wire that comes on a roll like this, and just see what sort of a shape I can get using that same technique that he uses. So what you will need is some wire, and once again in the description I'll put down how you work out the number of spaces that you need, how much wire you need basically, and what sort of a shape that will give you. So let's get started and you'll understand a little bit more once we actually go through the technique. So here we are with our cut pieces of wire. As you can see, I've just changed the tabletop so that you can actually see what I'm doing. I just started to record using the black tablecloth and there was nothing that you could see in what I was doing. So we have a length of our wire. As I said, the number of sections that you need will be down in the description, because basically what we're going to do is a double container, so that any plant material that you use has got 4 anchor points when you're using it in a container, when you're using this shape in a container. And these are the end bits to give it structural stability. Have got some gloves just in case the wire starts to play havoc with my hands, and I've got some pliers to cut in case I need to do that. What I will show you is that at the ends of the wire there, I've left the cut pieces so that I can use that to tie in as we work the shape. So let's get started so you can understand a little bit better what I'm talking about. So for the internal container, so we're going to do a double container basically. So for the internal part of the structure, we're going to use 2 spaces for each side. So what you need to do, and over the edge of the table is a good way to do it, is discard that one because that's the tie wires basically. So it's 1, 2, so we want to bend our wire for our first wall there. Now you can do it, as I said, you can do it over the edge, and with the flat mesh wire that's probably a better way to do it, to give you a nice hard edge, but I'll just do it with my hands because this wire is soft enough for me to do it with my hands. So next wall of our container is 1, 2, and we bend again. Now it will get a little bit fiddly until you get this first section completed. 1, 2, another wall, and you can see already how that's going to come together. So 1, 2, and this is where we tie our first shape into place using those cut ends that we had. Now one of the tips that John mentioned was to come into the wire sideways, these tie wires, so that they don't poke you, and I thought that was a very good tip because I often get poked with the wire when I'm trying to work with the square mesh wire. So as you can see, I'm just folding those in so that we've got that shape, and that's our internal shape for this structure that's going to, in many cases, replace using floral foam. It's reusable, you can take it out, you can wash it, you can obviously manipulate it into any shape container that you've got, so it is very useful in that sense. I know this is tedious to watch, but we would want to make sure that we've got it all secured before we go on to making the next part of the shape. And as I say, you only really need to do this once, and then you've got the shape to use. I can see that the wire has stabbed me already. There's blood on the table. Ah! Not hurting, so. Fortunately, the tablecloth that I have chosen to be able to show you this technique is a towel, so I'll just be able to surreptitiously run my finger across the towel like that, and you'll never know that there was blood there. So there we have our first part of the container. Now, so that is 2 spaces for each wall of that part of the container. Now you'll see we've got the first part of the structure ready. I did have to resort to a band-aid for the finger. It was just getting a bit too messy. So now we're going to create the next block around that to give it some structural stability, and then we'll add the ends on. So now we want to go, we've got 2 here, we want to go 2 here and then bend it. And then we want to go 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 and bend it. And as you can see, that starts to give us the shape that we're going to be going for, that rectangular shape that is like a foam block. So it's basically, once you've done that first one, it's 2, 4, 6. So 2, 4, now we do 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and bend it. And you can see the structure's taking shape. Another 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and bend it. And then we go 6 along here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you should have 2 left, which will give this side 6 because we did the 4 in the first place. And so I will just join those up so they don't flick around too much, and then you'll be able to see the finished shape. Doesn't hurt to have a bit of an overlap, just gives it a bit more structural stability, and already you'll be able to feel that this is a reasonably solid structure for you to be putting plant material in, this way or this way. Just tidy up those ends. So there we have our finished structure in terms of the basic way that you would do it. Obviously you can make it, once you've mastered the maths of it and counting the squares, you can make any shape to fit any container. You could obviously squeeze this up a little bit. What we're going to do to add a bit more structural stability is just add those 2 ends on. And for this one, I like to stretch it as far as I can so that it's, and just join the corners first. So that it really wraps itself around. You can obviously use other ties if you've got other little bits of the wire mesh left. Be recalcitrant, not do it for me. So that's our basic shape. I'll just go and join up all those ends. So there we have one side, and you can feel how much more solid that is now. I'll do the other side, and then you'll be able to see the finished product. And then in some upcoming videos for the supermarket series, I will use this as the container so you can see how well it actually holds the material, because obviously it's going to anything that you put through, it's going to be held in 4 places. Here, 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 and then in the base itself. So a really good solid mechanic to use inside vases or inside containers where you might in the past have used foam. So just give me a couple of minutes to finish this other side, and then you'll be able to see in the final photos the finished product. So there we have our final structure. You can see how solid it is. If you wanted to add a little bit more wire, you could to your inner cage. But for me, I know that works fine. It just gives me a little bit more leverage to actually shape this into the container a little bit better. But it's very solid. And as I said a couple of times, it does give you the opportunity to have your plant material secured in 4 places. So that's our take on using the chicken mesh style of wire for making this sort of a structure, this sort of a cage, if you like. I'll remind you about Flower Juice and John McDonald, and have a look at how he does it using the flat mesh wire to give you a different, but just as useful, obviously, structure to use as a mechanic in your designs. There we have it. Give it a go. It'll always be there for you to reuse. Just take it out, wash it, and reuse it in another container. So in that sense, it's far more. It does take a little bit of time to make initially, but you're going to have it for a long time to be able to use. For now, I'm Kim Bailey. This is Floral Art Online.